All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to episode 43 of the GGG Podcast. Excited to be here. Excited to talk about video games or video games in the common tongue. I am here as always with Phil. Phil, how you doing this week? You having a good week?
I'm having a week. I actually just got back before we recorded from the dentist. I have to do several fillings. And so part of my face is still a tiny bit numb. So for those of you watching, see if you can catch my ticks and tweaks. Because I feel like my left lip is just is a little bit behind the whole bulwark. But other than that, I am doing great. I am very excited to be here to talk about some of the gaming news that's going on this week. I haven't played that much with the exception of hours and hours of Multiverses this week. I have played so much.
Man, that game has sunk its teeth into you. Oh my goodness.
I'm making my way up the ranked. I think I'm just getting to gold now with Samurai Jack. It's a lot of fun. I just recently switched from crossplay enabled to crossplay disabled because crossplay makes the game a lot harder to play.
Sure.
There's the people who are playing on consoles get a lot of benefits from having slower internet connections. I feel like the game kind of catches up in a weird way.
Okay.
So that has been.
I didn't realize you were playing Multiverses on PC.
Oh yeah, I'm playing with a controller, but I'm playing on PC.
I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I play on PlayStation myself for Multiverses. So.
Okay. There's a lot of sweats on PlayStation is what I'm finding. And some on Xbox. Most of them are on PlayStation.
A lot of sweats.
A lot of sweaty folks. What have you been playing this week, Paul?
I have been playing some usual suspects. I've been playing more No Man's Sky, which has been good. And I feel like I've actually made some progress in that game as opposed to the last couple times I've played it where I kind of load into the game and I'm like, what should I be doing? Where should I be going? What thing on my mission log is the most important? What's going to make me the most progress? And so I lucked out. I was able to get a pirate freighter, which is one of the newer freighters. It looks so cool. Oh my God, it looks really cool. And so I was really happy about that. And I also found one of the expedition ships. The expedition specialty items that are like time sensitive. Like right now, there's a exo mech that you can get for the current expedition in No Man's Sky. So you can unlock that. But after the expedition is done, time-wise, you can't. It
goes away forever.
It just goes away forever. And so but it is like a random thing that you can find. And so I found, I think it was the underwater expedition reward. So I have like a little fighter jet that looks like a squid.
That's cool. That's very cool, actually.
So that's pretty fun. And then I've been playing a lot of Helldivers, ramping myself back up for Escalation of Freedom, which comes out today, the day we are recording this. And as well as on Thursday, we get Freedom's Flame, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been excited for that. Lots of my friends have been back on Helldivers when they haven't been playing in a while. So it's been good to get back diving. I'm trying to think if there was anything else.
I played a little bit more Marvel Rivals throughout the week as well.
Yeah. I booted it up a couple times. Yeah.
Still having fun with it. The beta test is over. But I did see that they were going to be at Gamescom with some big universe-shattering announcements, is what they said. So I'm hoping for a release date and maybe Captain America or whatever other characters are going to do. Like give us a couple more folks. But yeah, no, pretty genuinely excited to get back to that when it comes around again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it launches. And really curious if it's going to be free to play. I think if they choose to go free to play, they could just engulf the market. They really could, but they have to get their monetization figured out and whatnot. So,
hell, I'd be willing to pay $20, get all the characters, and then I'll buy skins as we go.
Yeah, I think that's a good model, honestly. So, all right. But before we get into the major releases this week, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our podcast. We are over on YouTube at Golden Glazed Gaming. If you're watching the video podcast, so yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and if you're listening over on Spotify, we'd really appreciate a review of our podcast. It helps us out over on Spotify. And if you're listening on Spotify and you want to watch the video version of our podcast, go to YouTube and check out the video version of our podcast. Look at all of the silly faces that Phil makes. They are entertaining.
Half of it's sleep.
Half of it's sleep. Okay. All right. So pressing on into the major game releases this week, we got two pretty cool games that have come out this week. The first one, Creatures of Ava, looks really interesting. I love the art style of this game. These are both indie games that are coming out. And Phil, did you have a chance to check out Creatures of Ava at all? I mean, not play it, but read up on it.
I watched the trailer and I read a little bit about this on the Steam page. It looks like extremely my jam, I guess is the right term. Like it's a cool alien world, like beautiful, sort of not cell, but kind of cartoony graphics.
Sure. Like a much prettier PAL world.
Yeah. A PAL world with some like attention to detail and lighting that's a little bit better. And the creatures themselves look so interesting and fun. And you just, as far as I can tell, you're going around collecting them.
Yeah.
Did you get to do any additional research about this game to like pitch it to your boy?
I mean, it's not, when I first looked at it, I thought it was like a survival craft game. I don't think that's what this is. This is an established world. It is about, I think it's about like collecting creatures and whatnot, not in like a POW world sense that, it's a ripoff of Pokemon. You're trying to put them in balls, but it's one of those games like Restore the World type of experiences. And so it's getting good reviews. GameSpot is giving it an 8 out of 10, calls it great. So if you've been following this game or have any interest, please go check it out. You want to throw some love to our indie developers out there. So
Absolutely. I like the idea that it's a game where you're trying to like save the world or save like this dying planet, but using the creatures within it to like do their natural thing to help. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and one of the sub things is like Creatures of Ava. You can pet the planet, like so.
That's really good.
Yes, cozy gamers. This sounds like it's for you.
They know how to get me.
Yes.
Additionally, SteamWorld Heist 2 is making its release on August 8th. SteamWorld Heist and SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Build are all a series of games in the SteamWorld setting. It's really cool to have like, a game world that has its own setting that is not tied to anything else. It's just cool Western robots. But SteamWorld Heist plays out like kind of a strategy, like a turn-based strategy, roguelike-ish style game.
Sure.
Your characters like will develop skills and get ailments that will affect them from one battle to the next. And it's all about sort of lining up your shots to like bounce off of walls because you're fighting like a 2D thing. So I would say it's like a Super Mario version of XCOM 2 specifically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right on. Very, very cool.
Getting some excellent reviews. I think it is GameSpot gave it a 9. The Besties podcast that I listened to spoke some really rave reviews about it, so excited for that one, especially since I'm like a big XCOM and what was that Marvel game, Midnight Suns, and Mario and the Rabbids game, like
underrated game. Midnight Suns, underrated game. Campy, but
campy as hell.
Yeah.
It's still cool to leave your bedroom as like the savior of the superheroes, and then all of a sudden Wolverine and Spider-Man there, and you're like, hey, what's up guys, do you need help fixing your car? It's such a strange and wonderful game.
Yes, indeed it is. All right, awesome. So some good games that are actually coming out right now. I know the latter half of this month we're getting Black Myth, we're getting Star Wars Outlaws. So I think the end of August will kind of mark into game season, where we start the holiday season plunge into all the game releases. And then in September, we got more games in September coming out. So I'm excited about that as well.
True.
All right, so let's dive into the news. We got a big news story to start us off for our first story on the podcast. So Bungie has gone through a shakeup. Sony's shaking them, and they were trying to figure out what they were doing. And we found out, and they have canceled one of the games that they have been working on, which is called Payback. And Payback was going to be a spin-off game of Destiny, where it is a third-person shooter, and I believe, Phil, you said that it was inspired by Warframe and Genshin Impact and games like that, which I found was a little silly because Warframe came out before Destiny in general, so that is a little silly. But they've gone through a big shakeup. There have been many rumors floating around the internet about Bungie and about how many projects they were actually working on at once. And apparently over the last couple years, they've been working on several passion projects, we'll call them. And after Sony acquired them last year, this seems to be Sony stepping in and being like, decide what it is you're working on, and then we can move forward. And much to our dismay, Phil, as we have talked about Destiny on this podcast many times, is they are not working on Destiny 3.
Yeah, pretty weird, but also kind of expected. Like this was a path forward that I could have seen for them, where they wanted to differentiate themselves from Destiny as a brand for a little while. But then again, there's Payback. I think it is a bit ironic that Bungie sort of headed over a cliff, was saved by a Bungie core by the name of Sony, and currently it is bobbing up and down as it goes through some rapid and violent changes. It is always really crappy to hear about these layoffs, and far too common in this industry. But I do think Bungie was playing with fire a bit. I feel like it's one of those very confident moves where they were like, yeah, we're working on like 6 games right now. And Sony was like, you wanna make one? And they were like, totally. Hey, when Sony comes back, they're gonna see that we've made progress on 6 games, and they're gonna be so happy. And then Sony comes back, and they're like, "I'm sorry, man, I didn't do anything." So it's like one of those situations where it just seems like and a lot of these layoffs are because management and leadership is having a lapse. But I do think that's pretty clearly the situation.
Totally. And I think this is a distinction. There are some layoffs that have gone through, but there's the distinction with this round of layoffs is most of the layoffs that we have been seeing this year, and we've talked about them a lot on the podcast because there have been many, but most of them have been lower level employees, people doing the grit and grind, the people who are really making the game and not making the artistic decisions and the economic decisions and whatnot. But this, there were some of those people who were also laid off, and hearts out to them. But this was a layoff of leadership. And so I believe the leadership at Destiny has been removed, and they're going to be replaced. So that is interesting, because at that point you're kind of like, is Bungie still Bungie? It's kind of like when the Mass Effect people left BioWare. It's like, is BioWare still BioWare? And so
the answer for that one was no, not really.
Yeah. So they are still working on a game called Marathon that will be their confirmed game. That was one of the games they were working on that they will continue to work on and push out next. But yes, there is no Destiny 3 coming out, which is very shocking to me. And along with that, just as an update for Destiny 2, active Destiny 2 players out there, Destiny 2 is going to be moving away from the paid DLC format. And apparently all of the updates that are going to come to Destiny 2 from now on are going to be free updates. And then they're going to just have the monetization of microtransactions and, costumes and all that other stuff. Everything you buy silver with.
It's interesting because there's a part of me, and I guess this is a question I want to pose to you at the end here, but there's a part of me that is a little like, all right, cool. Let's see what they do when they build something new. They've learned a lot of lessons for the last 10 years of Destiny content. Let's see them do something new and see kind of what they've learned and what they want to implement and what they can do working with like a whole new engine from the ground up. But the other part of me is also pretty sad to see Destiny lose its support and to kind of know like, well, for the foreseeable future, there's no new Destiny on the horizon. But my question is to you, Paul, how long does a game how long should a game be supported before the developer starts really going whole ham and working on something else?
I mean, it's a good question, but I don't think it has a simple answer. I think if I was the person making that decision, I would say it would have to be entirely dependent, or not entirely, but mostly dependent on the game's community. And if it still has an active community, which Destiny does, Destiny has an active community, as much as, I give it crap from time to time. There's people out there who love Destiny. They love Destiny 2. And so if you have an active community, you should continue to support it. I think what I haven't liked about Destiny is that, or all these DLCs, is I feel like all of these DLCs were just like, instead of working on Destiny 3, where we could have improved the game as a whole in one fell swoop, and like you could still do like Destiny 2 events, like seasonal events, or you want to do a battle pass or something like that, go for it. But I feel like what they did is they're like, let's just work on these big DLC packs and not work on Destiny 3, and now they're kind of, I don't know, they kind of shot themselves in the foot because they don't have any transition period or any transition content. And when you have such a hold on the market like Bungie does with Destiny, it's like you want to keep that market. You don't want to let them run away to Apex Legends, or let them go to COD or some other first person shooter or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the community. So
yeah, there's something about absence making the heart grow fonder too, because I can imagine after a couple years of, I remember when Destiny 1 was kind of like nearing its end stages and Destiny 2 was coming out, I was playing other stuff and I was like, man, I can't wait to get Destiny back in my hands because that game feels so good compared to everything else I've been playing in the first person space. The idea of Payback sort of being a third person Destiny game was pretty interesting, just because I realized this when playing Marvel Legends, and someone on Reddit like encapsulated it just perfectly. Games where you can see your character model are a lot more fun when you are also collecting skins in that game.
Yes.
You want to be able to see the skins, and I think Destiny had a bit of an issue with that. Sure, some of the armor pieces and effects like had a gameplay effect or had like a visual flair from the first person perspective, but it's just so cool to see like your rogue's cape like flowing in the wind, and you're never really going to see that. Really, you're just putting on a show for your your squad mates, yeah
it's more like bragging rights in the loading cutscene, kind of a thing. I felt that way for years, and that's not just Destiny. It's several other games. It's like if you have a first-person game and a big grinding thing of that game is like, oh, I'm gonna get cosmetics. It's like, well, I'm never gonna look at them. Yeah. So it's just like, and you can see other first-person games that have a lot of cosmetics. Like I play the finals a lot. Played it this week, and there's a lot of cosmetics in that game. And so even though it's a first-person game, what they try to do is they try to put your model in view as much as possible because the gameplay is first person. And I feel like Destiny has also tried to do that. But I believe originally Halo was, originally I think Halo was supposed to be an RTS. But then it was a third person shooter, but then they did first person shooter. And so they were probably looking to try to get back to that third person feel and like that Fortnite feel. Because I love third person shooters. I'm much better at third person shooters than first person. So
there's something about all that added periphery that's really nice. But yeah, this such a bummer to hear about Bungie. But hopefully this is a tool to like really help them aim towards what the next big thing is going to be from Bungie. You know?
Yeah, just as a catalyst. Hopefully this propels them. But who knows?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, or not excited, but curious to see what the first free DLC will be, or if it's just going to be like, oh, this is an update. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that they're not charging for it.
Hey, listen, when it comes to Bungies, you got to go down first, and then you can come back up.
That's good. That's very good.
Shall we move on to the next story?
Please, take it away, good sir.
Here, hey, everyone, are you finding you're having too much fun playing video games on your video game consoles? Well, good news. You can get really upset because Valorant is now on consoles near you. You want to play it on PlayStation? You want to throw your Xbox remote through the TV? Have I got the thing for you? Sorry for that pitch, but Valorant is now on consoles, which is pretty big news because it has been one of the biggest games in the past, I'd say, 3 years since it's been out.
It really is. I think it's like number 3 on Twitch.
Really?
Steadily, might even be higher than that. Let's see. I'm gonna check it out right now.
Let's see. In the meantime, I'll talk about how it's kind of like Counter-Strike with superpowers.
Yeah. Totally.
And it's also not going to have cross-play, which is kind of nice.
Yes, there's no cross-play currently in it. I think technically they released it on consoles, but it's kind of a beta, sort of.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it is. Okay, it is number 3. Or it's number 4 on Twitch right now, but that's only because just chatting counts as a category.
That's fair.
So yeah, but it is usually over 100,000 viewers on Twitch. So that's pretty crazy. I remember I played in the Valorant beta on my PC, and it seemed like a friendlier Counter-Strike to me. But yeah, I cannot conceive of playing that game with a controller. Like I don't know how you aim, like, unless there's auto aim, which
I'm sure there's going to be some degree of auto aim.
Right. Yeah.
Apparently keyboard and mouse players on consoles will be banned as soon as they are found out. So that's an interesting little thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I don't know how to feel about this. I think that Valorant is such a big game that it makes sense that it's going to come to consoles, but it seems like a very, pro gamer, esports on PC type of game. And I don't know how the auto aim's going to work because like auto aim for for COD, auto aim is kind of the gameplay. No disrespect out there, but I mean, it's kind of what it is. It's you pop in and you're aiming at the person immediately. So
it takes a bit of skill to work with auto aim. Mostly, it turns it from like actual aiming into just timing. But
yeah, sure, yeah,
whatever.
Potato. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that it's coming to consoles for any Valorant fans out there, but there's not much else to say about it until we actually get some more feedback from those console players. And I'm curious because console players, you're usually a younger audience. I'm curious to see how the younger audience responds to Valorant. So
well, I would love to get on there and wreck some 7-year-olds.
Yeah. Shall we do that? Shall we do that for the stream this week? We'll go wreck maybe 7-year-olds.
And by that I mean get wrecked by 7-year-olds.
There it is.
Be a real blow to my self-esteem, but maybe it's deserved.
Phil be like, I want to go play multiverses.
I'm out of here. I need Samurai Jack to hold me in his thinly drawn arms.
Are you still maining Samurai Jack?
I am. He's become my new main. Superman has sadly taken the back seat, and I still play. I switch around as the need be, but Samurai Jack's the meta, baby.
The meta. Okay. All right. Very cool. All right. Let's press on to the next news story. So just because it's trendy right now, Microsoft is also shaking some things up. So not as big of a shakeup as Sony's doing with Bungie on the other side of the business aisle, but Microsoft has established a AA studio inside of Blizzard, as well as made tweaks to 343 Industries, which is the company who makes their Halo games. Which, no surprise with 343, because Halo has been petering out like crazy over the last 2 years. But the AA studio is actually kind of an interesting announcement, especially inside of Blizzard. And particularly, they're looking at a AA studio to develop games for existing IPs. What a surprise. And they're going to be targeted at for mobile games, stuff for your iPad or stuff for your phone. And I think this is a clear indication of Microsoft trying to just spread their IPs around a little bit more than they have already. Make sure that instead of 6 billion people knowing who Master Chief is, 7 billion people do. So
the entirety of the earth will know the man who sacrificed himself to save them. John, I forget his name. 316.
Is it 616 or something?
I thought it was 117.
117. That's right. 616 is something else.
It's the Marvel universe.
Yes, that's the Marvel universe. There it is.
Pop culture numbers, baby.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I feel like, hey, new Battletoads game coming. That's really, really exciting. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But just back to Halo for a second and 343. The shift feels like a good thing, because it does feel like when I've been playing Halo games lately, like
you've been playing Halo games recently?
Well, I mean, since Halo 3, which is when I firmly believe that Halo ended.
ODST. All right, I'll give you ODST.
But it does feel like I've been in denial that like a loved one is dead, and I've just not let them go. So I'm just like, no, Halo's still fine. Look at Master Chief. He's having a great time. And he's just fighting a walrus. And I'm like, what is this game? I think it kind of should have ended with 3. And Microsoft would be in a different place if they were confident enough to make something new and huge.
Yeah.
But they just haven't had that feeling yet. So.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what 343 does next. But again, it's these aren't the people. Bungie made Halo, that's when Halo was, and so then they're gone now, and they're working for Sony if they're still there. So
yeah,
I don't really know that Halo gets a comeback, which is disappointing for me, just because I do think Halo Infinite's multiplayer is fun, and there's something just really gameplay wise really satisfying and tangible with the classic Halo gameplay, with the modern tweaks of being able to sprint and aim and shit and stuff like that. But this other AA studio, it's interesting, but it's also okay, there's gonna be a Halo phone game. Cool. I won't download it. So next.
Let's see what phone games they come out with. Hey, if this gets us a sequel to Blink's Time Sweeper, I am on board. Let's go, Microsoft. Get me Blinks the Cat Time Sweeper. Do you remember that game for the original Xbox?
I did not own it myself, but I had a friend who did, and I played it at his house. So
I definitely rented it, and that's my full experience with it, but it left an indelible mark on my soul.
Okay. Right on. All right, so moving on through the news. So a game got announced this week, and I thought this was a curious idea for a video game, and so I wanted to include it in our news reporting. So there is a game called Fellowship, and it has been announced. And essentially, the concept of this game is that when you play World of Warcraft, not recently, but and you used to do raids, MMO raids. Have you played MMO raids, Phil?
Oh, never. With the exception of Destiny, never.
Okay. But for those people who do play MMO raids, the concept of this game is that instead of having the rest of the MMO where you have to do a bunch of tedious tasks to grind and get up to level in order to do like the raids, and the thing is, even in Destiny, I think this is kind of true, where it's like the best content is sometimes in the raid. But if you can't get to the raid and get a team for the raid, then you can't experience that content. And so Fellowship, this game, endeavors to cut all of that grinding and everything out, and that it is simply a raid MMO experience where you start the game, you're just doing a raid, and you pick through classes and characters and whatnot. Like, I'm going to be a healer. It's kind of like Overwatch, where you pick your role and you're doing a classic raid, and so you don't have to worry about all of the other MMO systems and microtransaction, all that time-consuming stuff.
Getting rough worn pelts or whatever, yeah.
Yes, exactly, and chopping wood, and you got to go get iron and all this other stuff. And so you don't have to do that. This is just, it's kind of like, hey, you want to do a raid match, and then you can stop. Kind of a thing. So I actually thought this was a pretty interesting concept, and I thought it might be fun for, ex World of Warcraft players who are a bit worn out from playing World of Warcraft. But if you're still playing World of Warcraft right now, you probably are never going to get worn out, to be honest.
Yeah. That's probably an addiction at that point.
Yeah. So what do you think, Phil? Do you think this is a good concept for a game, or is this a shot in the dark?
Really good concept for a game, in my opinion, because it is something that we haven't seen before. Because like raids in a game in Warcraft, in Destiny, they are so much fun and such a you're completing a puzzle with other people. This getting us that game without like all of the build up to it might take the magic out of it for some folks, but I think just the way that we play games now, we're kind of like, okay, I'm sick of like grinding. I'm sick. If I want to do that, I'm going to play a survival game where I'm like building something. There's less pressure. Yeah. If I want to have like that really cool experience of like taking down some crazy boss that we didn't know we could, but somehow did via teamwork, that seems like a nice thing to be able to play and dip in and out over 10 to 15 minutes for a quick play one or an hour or two. So you're not like having to put 8 hours of gameplay in to get to this raid. That's conservative. So, I think really, really cool idea. Excited to see when it comes out, like how well it's adopted, because if it's really easy to find a raid, like a team of 2 other people to play with, that's like pretty good matchmaking. I could see this thing picking up a lot of steam.
Yeah, definitely. I like, especially, yeah, it's just the time thing. The time thing, I think this is such a good idea. So I'll probably check it out. I'm going to double check here, but I don't think that okay, so the Fellowship does not have an official release window as of today, but there is a closed alpha that's going to be happening the 15th through the 20th of this month, and you can sign up for it on their website. And I believe I signed up earlier, but I will go double check that. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept. If I get into the beta, definitely going to throw it up on a stream if people are curious. But yeah, if you're thinking about like how does the game actually look, it looks kind of like a higher res World of Warcraft. That's
exactly what I was going to say next. It took a lot of inspiration from that, or crap, I can't remember the other game, so I'm just not going to mention it. But it does look like a very updated version of World of Warcraft. So
sure,
excited about that. Speaking of things that we are excited about, question mark.
Okay.
Star Wars Outlaws recently released their roadmap of DLC. This is the stuff that you're getting if you buy the $150 version of the game that comes with the DLC.
Yep, comes with R2D2.
Comes with a full functioning R2D2. He does beep and boop, but there's Duolingo on him.
And he makes you feel bad when you don't do it daily.
Yeah. He just comes up with just one of that's a cat noise. I don't know what I'm doing. Anywho, yeah, they've released this roadmap, which I feel like has come with some derision, or a lot of people on Reddit that are commenting about it like, okay, cool, so I'll just wait till next year and get the whole thing. Those are at least the most of the sentiments I'm seeing, and I kind of tend to agree with that. But also, it looks fun. It looks in universe. It seems like, kind of the Han Solo game that we never got. We're obviously getting with this, and it's more things along that line. Yeah, Paul, how do you feel about this?
About the roadmap in general. I mean, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with your point. Look, I'm glad that you have a roadmap, but to me, I feel like this paying for DLC that isn't anywhere near release, I don't know. I think it's awful. Like, I bought the special edition of Skyrim, or not Skyrim, sorry, Starfield, Space Skyrim, but worse. And like, so I have the DLC for that game, but I have yet to play it. And we're coming up on a year that the game has been out, and I have yet to play it. And so I feel like we need to be, as consumers, we need to kind of start taking action. And I need to start doing this myself, where it's like, if you want me to buy your DLC, then you got to market it. And you got to make a trailer for it, and you got to tell me what is in the DLC to warrant me buying this, instead of just being like, yeah, buy the super ultimate super, everything edition, and then don't play that's extra stuff that you're paying for. And like and there's no, like, at least with this, they have a roadmap of like, this is coming in the fall. This is coming in the spring, and so I think that is at least good that Ubisoft put that out. But for for Starfield, I have no idea when Shattered Space is coming out. I have no if it's like, I mean, yeah, well, like, am I going to get a refund? Who knows? And so I am not a fan of this. I know that people will feel inclined, if like big Star Wars fans, like, yeah, I want to get the best edition. And if I buy the best edition, I'll actually save $15 on all the DLC.
Then if I bought it separately, because I know I'm going to buy it separately. You might not.
You might not.
Yeah.
You might play the main game and then be like, I don't need any more of this.
Like, I had plenty. I ate, and I'm good. They kind of like toss these little morsels. There's that extra exclusive mission that comes with the season pass, as well as a character skin pack called Kessel Runners, where you can dress up like Han Solo and
your little
have
creature
your little
gets
the
the
Chewbacca bandolier. Yeah. Which I think is like, it's a very sneaky way to get people to try that. Like, oh, you could dress up like Han Solo. Won't that be fun? Again, me personally, when I'm playing it, I will do it for 5 minutes and then go, all right, I don't think I want to dress up as the character, or like customize the character.
I don't want to.
That, and all of that said, the first DLC is coming in 2024 in fall, and it's called Wild Card. And it seems like you're going to meet Lando. That's at least what they're advertising. Let me read you their little blurb about it. Kay is hired to infiltrate a high-stakes sabacc tournament. But as she crosses paths with the notorious gambler Lando Calrissian, she soon learns that there is another game being played. Are you going to get to bone down with Lando?
Bone down?
With Lando?
Are you saying what I think you're saying right now?
Is there a Lando romance option? Lando Calrissian.
Okay. First of all, this is a Disney game. Ubisoft might be but this is a Disney game, and there is no romance in Disney games because they have to stay away from any sexual content at all. This is not Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, they are not. You will not have any romantic feelings for anyone. That is done. That is set in stone. your character is not a human being. They are a robot. Okay, they have no sex drive. Okay,
this is the type of thing that I feel like may get edited out. So I just want to preface all of this with that. But if I get to Romance Lando, it's not going to be a Ubisoft game, if you know what I mean.
Okay, all right. Woo, yeah, I don't know.
That's this was at 40 minutes and 20 seconds in case you need to come back to this.
All right, that's good. Thank you for the timestamp right there. No, it's okay. We're doing well on the charts. I don't want to mess with what's working.
Mess with the magic. Listen, again, I'm gonna get the Ubisoft thing that, like, the subscription lets you play all the games.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like that's what they're going for here. Is like, okay, rent it when it comes out, and then rent it again when the DLC comes out. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a way for them to double dip a little bit, or you rent it when it first comes out, and then the game is $20 for the whole edition, like couple years later, so you buy it again. Mm-hmm. I do feel like this is kind of like a market test for them, and I'm excited to see how it works out. But at the same time, don't give me DLC maps before the game's released. Yeah. Especially if you're not going to give me a lot of content,
Yeah.
Or a lot of... Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think that's more of a criticism in general in the industry that it is directed at Ubisoft, because there's lots of companies who do that. All right. Let's get to our last news topic. Or actually, no, you know what? We got a little bit of time here. Let's. Do you want to talk about Star Wars Outlaws in general and just your hype level or excitement for it?
I do. Yeah, I'm excited about Star Wars Outlaws, and I think it's because it's coming at just the right time. Mm-hmm. We've had a bit of a drought of games, and not to say this derisively about SteamWorld Dig or Creatures of Ava, but like both of those are kind of indie games that I feel like have a little bit more heat right now because of where they're placed in the release schedule.
Yes.
But the first sort of big AAA of the season being debatably Star Wars Outlaws or Black Myth Wukong. I think Black Myth Wukong will do big numbers, but is also a little bit more limited, being a Souls-like game. Like, it's kind of more for a certain crowd, even though those have been more popular lately.
I'm crossing my fingers that it's easier than a Souls game, but we'll see.
That would be nice. But yeah, I think I'm pretty excited, even though I am skeptical about the game. Where do you fall with Star Wars Outlaws? I know you're a Star Wars fan, so...
Yeah, I mean, I have a troubling relationship with Star Wars. It's kind of like ex-girlfriend type relationship. And so I'm in the middle. I think there are people who are out there who are saying that this game is awful. And there are people out there who are saying that this game is fantastic. And everything that I have seen of this game... It makes, I don't agree with either of those, vastly different points of view. I don't, like, people are saying it's awful. It's like, the game doesn't look awful at all. Let's be realistic. Like, come on. I think my hesitation about like getting really excited for it is that, like, I feel like the game is not doing anything new. I feel like, first of all, they're bragging about being the first open world Star Wars game. That's not true. We just had an open world Star Wars game last year. And I get that it was kind of a Souls-like because you rested a campfire and like, but it's an open world Star Wars game, guys. It was an open world Star Wars game, whether you like it or not. Sorry, it wasn't as open as you wanted it to be. But, spoiler about a lot of open world games. A lot of open world games don't have anything in them. So there's a lot of empty space. So I'd rather my space have things in it. So like I'm sitting somewhere in the middle. This is not a game I'm going to pre-order. It's a game that I'm going to look at reviews. But at the same time, I'm kind of worried that the reviews are not going to be truthful. I see how much marketing has been going into this game. I see how many like specials like IGN has had just on this game alone. And it's like IGN is always going to have specials on big games, but this game has been constant. They have, oh, here's another 10 minutes of footage. Here's another 15 minutes of footage. And so like I feel like they're buying a lot of that time from them. And I guess to me it feels like this is like an Uncharted Star Wars game. And, which I should be excited about, but I'm worried about it being more for kids, where it's like, this is a game you should play at 14 years old. And like, I want a Star Wars game that's closer to Andor. And I feel like Jedi Survivor that came out last year, that it wasn't a dark tone game, but there were consequences and there were things that happened and there were romantic interests. And this feels like a game where it's like, there's not going to be any romance because it's for kids. There's not going to be any big consequences, like with characters dying and stuff like that. And so I don't know what the stakes are. But that all being said, I don't know because I haven't played the game. But I think this like polar opposites thing is ridiculous. Like,
it's Star Wars, and I think that just invites like overzealous and over negative reactions.
Yeah,
I will say it's crossing my T's for a Star Wars game, which is third person, excellent, and cute little sidekick. We got BD1, we got this cool little Newt guy.
Yeah,
I am into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta have cute things. Love me some cute things. Speaking of cute things, just rounding out our news here before we get into our main topic, there is some new details around Monster Hunter Wilds. They released a few videos just showing us the first like actual gameplay in Monster Hunter Wilds, and to no one's surprise, it looks very similar to Monster Hunter World. Almost like identical in the gameplay, which is what, I expected. I'm sure it's what a lot of people expected out there. But it's kind of one of those.
It's what I want for sure.
Yeah, it's what I want, but it's kind of one of those videos of like imagine if they released like a Red Dead Redemption 3 trailer and they were going through the gameplay and it's like, now you can take your pistol out and shoot.
Yeah.
Now we have this new system called Deadeye. And it's just like, that stuff that was in the last game. Why are you showing this to me?
It's been here since Max Payne, my dog.
So I'm grateful for the content. I don't know that I needed this information. This is all I have to say.
I guess I'm excited about it because it shows, it does that thing that Capcom does weird and well. I don't know if they know that they have a good game. So they're just like, hey, here's how the game works. You guys like this? This is just, the basic controls. You guys into this? And I like, based on how much I loved Monster Hunter World, and I think a lot of people that was their on-ramp to the series, Rise didn't get me. So this is very exciting just to see, like, okay, we're back in the saddle. And much the same way that Monster Hunter Worlds looked incredible on last gens, the gameplay that they're showing looks, and granted it's canned, and I believe we're looking at possibly a March 2025 release date for this game, but it does look really, really impressive. The way that the costumes move, the way that the environments are, that's really what I'm looking for when I see these, and I'm like, okay, that's all pretty unique and pretty interesting. The movement all seems very fluid, and it definitely got me excited because I was like, oh, I forgot Monster Hunter Wilds is coming. All right.
Yeah. I mean, the mounted stuff looks really cool. That's what I'm really excited for. So, and I know you could have other mounts in World and in Rise, but this seems like there's been more thought put into it. So I am very excited about that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
very excited for Monster Hunter Wilds or World 2 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's dive into our main topic this week. It is kind of an unfortunate main topic, but we're going to open up the discussion to kind of a wider range of things. So Game Informer this week has officially shut down after 33 years. And if you are a younger person and do not know what Game Informer is, have never heard of Game Informer is a gaming magazine that has existed all of my life. and
And if you're younger and you don't know what a magazine is, it's like a thin, sexy book with a lot of ads in it.
and if you don't know what a book is, um,
It's like a thick, sexy
it's
magazine
like a lot of tablets. It's like a lot of really thin tablets.
layered on top. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they've officially shut down, which is very sad. I have subscribed to Game Informer on and off. I think maybe 3 times in my life, and honestly, I loved their cover art for their magazines. I thought they were like kind of like collectibles, where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, there's a God of War 3 is coming out. I gotta get the Game Informer for God of War 3, and like, be almost like I guess what our parents' generation would be like baseball cards or something like that.
Truthfully, yeah.
Yeah, and so I love the magazine. I loved the articles that they had in there. I felt like they really did um, really honest deep dives on games that they got kind of a backstage view to before they came out. And, they never blew smoke up any game's butt. So I'm really happy about that as well. I can always feel like if I went to Game Informer for a review, they had an honest take on that game.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm very
even
sad.
even though the sort of like the existence of a magazine is it's slower than the way we get information now. Now you can
Hmm.
find a YouTube video 15 minutes after some event happens where
Yeah.
someone's breaking it down. I always felt that their insights were very acute and they always added something of substance to it. And usually had information that wasn't commonly known, at least if not little nuggets towards the more prolific internet era.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess one of the reasons this is the main topic is that after 33 years of Game Informer being a pretty strong tent pole of the games media ecosystem, um, what does this mean? Does this mean like games media is transforming? I posit that it is changing pretty drastically. And I guess I just want to talk about how that is and where a lot of media is happening now versus in your magazines or your IGNs or your Game Informers.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's already changed. Like, I mean, we know it's already changed. We're doing a video podcast on video games. The way we consume media is completely changed. It's instantaneous. It's in your hands. Um, Honestly, when I was in high school, I mean, magazines were already on their way out.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of surprised. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm a little surprised that they lasted this long. That being said, there are still video game magazines out there. I know that Games Radar has, I believe it's called Edge, and they do a pretty good. They actually, I remember, I think it was almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago or something like that. But Edge magazine had I'm sure the internet's gonna have fun with that name. They had a special on Star Wars Outlaws before
Oh,
I had even seen it announced.
yeah.
Um, and so that was really cool to be like, oh, I can get this physical thing that's going to give me this insight that I'm not going to find on Twitter and whatnot. And so I honestly, everything has changed. I hope that I guess I was hoping that Game Informer would evolve into something else, and maybe they had other revenue streams or avenues that they were going down, and I just never heard of them. But yeah, I think just the landscape has changed. I mean, you brought up before we started recording IGN, and like when we, back in the day, IGN was the website to get
Mhm.
gaming news, and now IGN is really just kind of nerdy pop culture, and
And a lot of
and
ads.
a lot of ads. It's just
Mhm.
ads, 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 and it's like I get it, you got to pay your bills, but it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's enough to make me not want to go to your website. So,
Yeah, it's all ads and Bitleys, ads and Bitleys, ads and Bitleys.
but what?
It's Bitly is like those little small links that you have on Instagram just
Okay.
to shorten and to contract them so that you can link to somewhere.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I do feel like at this point IGN like kind of doesn't exist in the way that it did, like the Greg Miller sort of generation and going off to form kind of funny and GameScoop and all their stuff. Like they've kind of taken it in a different direction and
Hmm.
democratized it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of games now, game journalism is kind of done through Twitch. You watch someone playing a game, and either that's enough for you or you get inclined to buy the game. That's the best way to see chunks of a game that you not sure you want to buy. Those like first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes are kind of a weird thing, and I feel like ever since their inception, like that's been big for a lot of websites. Um, it's a weird thing because it's like, okay, well, if I know I want the game, this is going to spoil some stuff. And if I don't know if I want to get the game, I'm going to watch the tutorial.
Hmm.
So what do I want to do here? Like I feel like the internet and the advent of sort of like pop culture diversifying and democratizing has made it tough for games journalists to figure out like how do we show people stuff, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and how do we cut through all the noise?
Mm-hmm.
Because I will disagree with you about one thing. You said that like Twitch might be like the journalism. Like no disrespect to streamers or anything, or like when we're streaming or anything, but I would not call that journalism. To me, what the equivalent there feels like is that Twitch has kind of taken over for in the way that you were referring to it. I think it's taken over for game demos, where it's like I want to see somebody else play this to know
Mm-hmm.
if I want to play it.
Well,
Type of
I
a
think
thing.
kind of like previews and almost reviews, right? Like that
Yeah.
is you see bits of the game and you get a feel for what it is,
Right.
and that's what kind of previews used to be.
Yes. Yeah. And
So yeah,
some companies still do that. IGN still does previews, still does reviews, and everything like that. But yeah, I think there is. For me, I've noticed that there's definitely like you go to YouTubers as opposed to going to websites now. And it's like, well, what did Luke Stevens think? And I always have problems with that because I think that the best like video game news, and obviously this is a little patting myself on the back and you as well, Phil, but it's just like I think well, I'll refer to something else like Kind of Funny with Greg Miller. I think that's probably the best format where you have a smaller company and so you don't have to worry about having this huge staff like with IGN where you have to pump out all of these freaking ads all the time. And you just hone in on what's important and
Mhm.
whatnot, or whatever your particular niche is. Um, and
Once you kind of have like a group of people who like okay, I identify with a lot of Tim's like game opinions, and
mhm,
you see, oh, Tim liked this game, that's pretty cool.
exactly.
I IGN, Game Informer, though they have like the reviewers listed there, unless you're really locked in, the website becomes a monolith, and people will be like, "Oh, how come Deadpool didn't give a 10 or didn't get a 10? You gave She-Hulk an 8. That's crazy." And it's like, okay, there's different people reviewing those things.
Yeah.
Um, it's I think like just with how personal things have become, sort of monolithic media companies don't really fit the bill anymore. And we need those like smaller things. We need podcasts. We need things that people identify with to help us handle what is now one of the largest media entities in the world or entertainment entities in the world, video games. There
Yeah.
is so many different venues of like esports, first person shooters, story games, cozy games that one company I don't really feel like can do it all. And
Mhm.
you go to Game Informer and they don't have a review of Coral Island, and you're like, well, why don't they have that? But you can find someone playing it who,
Right.
yeah. So
Well, like, do you think that COVID also had an effect of like when we seek out media that we're more seeking out individuals now as opposed to seeking out companies?
yeah, I think that definitely had an effect because I noticed my Twitch consumption went up during COVID because I just was like, oh, it's nice to have people around,
Yeah.
even if they are on a screen.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that that was a big uptick and a big like swing because then we found out, oh, we don't need to do E3. Companies can do their own presentations on their own terms and be
Right.
more polished. And I think E3 was the thing keeping a lot of those older game journalism organizations alive.
Yeah, that was their Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
now,
a good.
Now Jeff Keighley's holding the entire thing up on his shoulders. Come on, guys, come on over to Games Week. Don't forget the Game Awards.
Jeff is doing fine. Jeff is doing just fine.
He's doing great.
Best job in the world.
He's the ambassador for video games to the world. He's the Willy Wonka of video games.
Yeah, kind of.
Him and Hideo Kojima, but still.
Yeah, at least the Western ambassador. So, but yeah, I don't really know what else to say about Game Informer, and I'm sad. But hopefully, people who were obviously laid off because they're shutting down, hopefully they're able to find other jobs, or maybe they'll do, as we were talking about, maybe do their own individual reporting, where they just go, they're solo journalists and whatnot. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if any of their reporters or writers does anything. So
yeah, I would love for Game Informer to become like an underground message board called the Game Informant that tells you all about the media, the companies and their dirty secrets, the real backdoor reporting. Backdoor reporting? I don't know if I like that, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do know what you mean. All right, but yeah, any other thoughts, Phil?
No. I feel like good show, a lot of news.
Yeah,
we're ramping up again, baby. We're getting
ramping
back
up
to games.
We're going. I'm excited. We talked about Outlaws and Black Myth coming out, and then in September we got Space Marine 2 coming out.
That's right.
Keep your eyes off of those leaks, people. Don't watch those leaks. And I think Frostpunk 2 is also, or did it get delayed farther than that? I'll have to double check on that one.
I can't remember if Assassin's Creed is September or October, but that's coming down the pipe.
Yes, I think they're October, but I think they're usually October, so I might just be defaulting that in my brain. So.
It's tough to tell anymore.
Yeah, it's Assassin's Creed 2024. So
exactly.
Yes, exactly. With mad people out there for some reason. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our show for this week. Thank you for listening to the GGG podcast. If you liked our podcast, please give us a like and subscribe over on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we could really use a follow or a review over there as well. We really appreciate it. We've been climbing some of the charts over on our end, so we just want to say thank you to everyone out there who is listening to us. And I'm going to be posting our Twitch channel in the description of this episode of the podcast. And so if you want to come and check out us streaming things, we also have old streams up there. If you want to catch some of our older streams, you can do that. But yeah, please follow us over on Twitch if you are interested as well. So you can have a good week, Phil.
I'm gonna have a much better week now that SteamWorld Heist 2 is coming out.
Okay.
It would be more convincing if I got the title of the game right, but I do want to play that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, you check out that one. I'll check out Creatures of Ava.
Oh yeah.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.